Hi guys, today we're going to be decorating our Christmas cookie kit. I've got everything laid out, my cookies, sprinkles, icing, a skewer, paper towel, and a brush. Remember, if your icing has any kind of color separation, you're gonna wanna mix that bag back up so that all of it looks the same color. It's still totally fine, you just need to mix it back up with your hands. You can do that right in the bag. And I'm gonna show you how to cut these bags open. If you look on the side, you'll see a seam right where the bag comes together. You're gonna find that seam and then you're gonna turn on its side. And that's gonna help us flatten the tip of the bag. So you run your fingers towards the end and flatten the tip. And then we're gonna take sharp scissors and we're gonna go straight across like that, okay? Then we're gonna turn it back over, find that seam again, and we're gonna push down on that seam to open up the piping bag, okay? And you're gonna wanna do that for each of your colors. The first thing we are gonna do is we are actually gonna take our red and our green icing and make some brown. So I'm using a little cup. You can use a plate, you can do it on the side, whatever you need to do, but I'm gonna put a little bit of green and a little bit of red in there. And I'm gonna mix that with my brush, just like that. And depending on what color brown you get, you might wanna add more red or more green. I want a little more red in there. Just like that, until you get the brown you're looking for. It's kind of a light brown. I'll roll with that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Christmas tree and we are going to paint some of this brown right on the trunk. All right, just like that. And don't worry about going too high. We're gonna cover that up with icing. I just wanna get a nice little coating of brown down here so that it looks like a tree trunk. All right. Once you've got a good amount of icing on there, you can swipe through a few times with your brush and make sure you get lines that are going upward and are nice and clean. The lines add a little bit of texture and make it look more like a tree trunk, so that's a good thing, right? Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and do our candy cane. So let's move these guys out of the way. And I actually have a fan over here. A fan is gonna help your cookies dry in between steps. Not completely dry, but just form a crust over the icing so that you can move on to the next thing. That's not required, but it does help things go a little bit faster, okay? So this is our candy cane. We are going to pipe it and flood it with white, and then we're gonna add red stripes. So this is kind of our more simple one that we're doing today. Okay, so we're going to start right here in the corner, and we are going, there's not really a corner, but I'm calling this a corner. And you're gonna apply gentle pressure, and once the icing hits the cookie, you're gonna lift up, and you're going to drop a rope of icing all the way along the edge of the cookie. And make sure you're applying pressure the whole way. You don't want to stop or else your rope will break, which is not a huge deal, but it's still nice when it stays together. And then come back to the start, okay? Now that our outline is there, we're gonna flood it. So we are going to push a little harder on our icing bag so that more icing comes out. And we're gonna follow that outline. And we're gonna get, it's a nice stack of icing, right? We don't wanna be really thin about it here because we need it to flood and settle back into itself. So we're gonna follow that all the way around the outside and then make sure it goes all the way in the middle as well. Okay, we'll take our skewer here and we're gonna knock out some of those lines. Make sure all of our icing goes to the edge like this. All right, this would be when you would pop any air bubbles if you have any. And I actually like to stick the cookie and shake it a little bit, and that'll help everything settle out. Okay, clean off your skewer. Okay, now we're gonna, while this is still wet, we're gonna take our red icing and we are going to drop some lines on the candy cane, okay? We wanna do this while it is wet so that the icing, the red icing and the white icing will sink in together and they will dry nice and smooth. It won't be like there's a line sitting on top of the candy cane, okay? So I wanna make sure, always make sure your piping bag, the tip is open and clean. And I usually, my hands are clean, they're dyed with food coloring, but they are clean. So I always use my fingertips to just make sure that end is clean and open, okay? So I'm gonna drop some lines. I'm gonna do double lines across the candy cane, and then I'm gonna go back and do single lines, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm gonna start right here on the edge, and I wanna apply gentle pressure. Once the icing hits once the red hits the white, I'm gonna lift up and drop a line. I'm gonna do another line right next to that one, okay? So I'm calling that a double line, okay? And so I'm gonna move a little bit higher up. I'm gonna drop another one, okay? And I'm going at an angle here because then that makes it look more like a realistic candy cane. And another one right next to it. Move up a little bit more, like this. Okay, and then we're gonna do one that stretches across the hook of the candy cane, right? So we wanna try and stay parallel with these guys. So we're gonna go like that. And another one right next to it. And one more up here. Just like that, okay? So we've got some double lines. So now I'm gonna go in between each of those double lines and drop a single line. Just gonna give our pattern a little more variety and make it a little more fun. So there's a single line, a single line, and another, and the last one. There we go. Oh, let's give this one right down here at the end. Excellent. All right, so there's our candy cane. That's pretty much it for the candy cane. If you want to get crazy, you can take your skewer and you can drag through these lines and make some cool shapes and patterns, or you can throw some sprinkles on it. But I like mine just like that. We're gonna leave it like it is, okay? So the next part is our stocking. So we're gonna pull our stocking forward. I'll go ahead and put my candy cane in front of the fan. And our stocking, we are going to do like a traditional Christmas stocking. So we're going to do white at the top, and then we're also going to do white down here at the heel, just to give it a little more fun. Okay, so up here, you're just going to pick right about where the trim of the stocking would be. And you're going to drop a line of white. And you're going to go up and around, back to the start. And then we're gonna flood it in and make sure to be applying firm pressure. Go all the way around the edges and back through the middle. Take your clean skewer and knock out those lines. Make sure it's all the way over and settled and even. Awesome. Okay. All right, then we're gonna do the heel as well. And you're just gonna guesstimate here a little half moon shape for the heel, just like this. And of course, around the edge. And that's that. Nice and simple, right? All right. Okay. I'm gonna let this sit in front of the fan for just a minute, and while we do that, we are going to work on our Christmas tree. Now you can definitely flood this Christmas tree all one color and do whatever you'd like with it. You can add polka dots, you can add swirls, you can do a lot of different things. I'm gonna do it in 3 different sections, and that's gonna give us dimension in between each layer of branches, right? So in order to do that, we have to do the 2 sections that are not next to each other and let them dry, and then come back and do the middle, okay? So we're gonna start at the top here and see how this is kind of like a funky scalloped Christmas tree. We're gonna follow those scallops around the different levels of it, okay? So I'm gonna start here at the top. I'm gonna drop my line of icing, my rope of icing around the edges, okay? And then I'm gonna make one scallop, two, and three. Just like that. Go ahead and fill it in. Firm pressure. Make sure the icing gets all the way to the edges. Just like that. Grab your skewer. And what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna use my sprinkles, and I'm gonna put sprinkles on this lower scalloped part of the tree. And I'm gonna do that on each level just to make it fun and festive. Okay, you wanna keep this area kind of clean because we are gonna be flooding up next to it. So I'm gonna take that sprinkle and move it up, that one and move it up, so that way I'll be able to get in close there later, okay? We're gonna do the same thing with this bottom level, okay, but we have to pipe it according to what the middle level is gonna look like, right? So we're gonna start right here and we're gonna do the scallops for the middle one, but it's actually gonna be the top of our bottom layer, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna do my scallops here, okay? And then I'm gonna come down and do this bottom level. 1, 2, and we're gonna go right in the middle of the trunk. It's gonna be like an A point there. And back. And up, just like that. Go ahead and fill that in. Like this. All right. Make sure you take your skewer and you're gonna settle out all those lines. Make it nice and smooth. Give it a little stick and shake it around. Awesome. All right, and do the same thing I did with the first level with my sprinkles, and I'm gonna go along the bottom, just like this. And stop when you feel like you have enough sprinkles, which, you know, is never enough. So I'm gonna stop right there. And I'm gonna let that dry. If we were to flood it right now, all the levels would kind of just meld together, and we want that nice defining line in between. So we're gonna let it dry for just a minute. So I'm gonna push it off camera right there in front of the fan, or in the way of the fan so that it can get dried up, okay? Now this is our ornament, okay? You can do red, you can do green, you can do white, whichever you prefer. I think I'm gonna do green just because I'm partial to green. So what we're gonna do is we are going to flood the big part with your main color, okay? And we'll use a different color for the top to make it look like the hanging part of the ornament. I'm gonna start right here where it starts to curve. And I'm going to drop my line of icing, my rope, all the way around the edges. And then when I get right there, I'm gonna come up to the top. And I'm going to fill it in. All right, make sure that's nice and flooded all the way around. And use your clean skewer and push it out to the edges. knock out those lines. And make it nice and even. All right, give it a little shake. Shake, shake, shake. Okay, so while this is still wet, okay, I'm gonna do some horizontal lines, and I'm gonna do some red and some white. So I'm gonna start with my red. I'm gonna go across the middle. My line broke, that's okay. Just pick it up where it left off. Well, there's something stuck in my icing bag. That's okay, sometimes that happens. All right, there goes my line. And I'm gonna do a few of them, like this, and like that. I think I'll do one more. Okay, and this is another wet on wet technique, so we wanna do it while the icing is wet so that it all dries together. So now my white icing, I'm gonna go in between the red lines, just like this. All right. Okay, so while that's still wet, again, this is our wet on wet technique. We're gonna drag our skewer through the lines and make a really cool pattern, okay? So now when we do this, we're just going along the top of the icing. We're not digging down to the cookie, okay? So I'm going to start in the green part, and I'm gonna swipe down, okay? And then I'm gonna go up and down. And then I'm gonna go up one more time, and I'm gonna kind of follow the curve of the ornament, okay? Same thing over here. I went down, and if you get these little notches, you can just knock them down with your skewer, okay? So I'm gonna go up over here. And you wanna work quickly because you can tell it's already starting to dry a little bit, so you don't wanna wait too long to do this. And then down. And then up one more time. Very cool. All right. And then if you want to, you can do like a few dots across the top. We'll do some polka dots up here. And maybe do some going down this way. It's totally up to you what you want your ornament to look like. Very cool. All right, we'll let that dry for a minute and then we'll come back and do the top part. Okay. All right, we've got our Christmas stocking. Now it's not, the white part is not dry, but it's dry enough to where we can flood next to it and it'll have a defining line. Okay, so we obviously want to follow this part all in red. So we're going to start in the corner up here. Apply gentle pressure, let the icing hit the cookie, and then pick up and drop that rope of icing all the way around the edges. I know I feel like a broken record when I say that, but that's just how we do it. Okay, so now I'm gonna drop this line and it's gonna go right up next to the white part on the heel. Keep going to the top. And we're gonna drop another red line right along that trim, okay? Now if those lines are there, we can go ahead and fill it in, and we wanna go right up next to it, like this. And fill it all the way in. Take your skewer, make sure it's clean, and shake it out. All right, So I'm gonna add some decorations here. You can do dots, you can do swirls, you can do the horizontal lines that we just did. But I'm gonna do a little pattern here. I'm gonna do 4 polka dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna have each one go towards the center. So I'm gonna stick my skewer in the middle of that dot and drag it towards the middle, like this. And I clean it off in between each one, like that. Again, towards the middle. And one more. There we go. And I'm gonna do little teeny dots in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna do dots on the end too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Looks super cute. That's all there is to that. So we'll push that one out of the way, let it dry in front of the fan. Bring our tree back. We're gonna do that midsection like we talked about. All right, so it's already lined up for us on the top and the bottom, so we just have to basically do the sides. All right, so we're gonna pipe our outline around the sides. And then we're gonna go ahead and flood. And then we have to do our outline again over here. You can do the outlines first if you want. I'm just habitual doing it in one line. All right, and fill that in. Now, if you didn't get exactly up next to the other sides, you can take your skewer, and that's what helps us out. Make sure you push it all the way up. There, and there. Make sure there's no holes, no little holes. Okay. And because we let it dry for a little bit, it's gonna hold that line, that defining line, so you can actually see the 3 different tiers of branches. Same thing, we're gonna go along the bottom of this tier and drop some sprinkles. Just like this. That is a big, like, monstrous tri-sprinkle thing going on. All right, that's it. Our little tree is finished. And the last thing we have to do is we have to put the top part on our ornament. And I'm gonna use red. So this is just a little square, right? So we're gonna pipe around the edges. Just like that, and then let it in. Make sure it's nice and even. And that's about it. All right, guys, we've got our ornament, our tree, our candy cane, and our stocking. 4 awesome little Christmas cookies. You've got 8 cookies in your pack, so you've got 4 more to do. Be creative, make them your own, and have fun with it. Thanks, you guys.